Hello everyone, I'm Ankush D and today I'm going to show a presentation on World War II, which lasted from 1939 to 1945. So let's get started. What was World War II? World War II was a war of some countries in Europe, which eventually spread to the whole world. It lasted for 6 years, that is 1939 to 1945. It caused a lot of bloodshed all around. It was first started by Germany under the leadership of Adolf Hitler. What were the causes of World War II? Rising pro-nationalism, the Second Sino-Japanese War, which was a war between China and Japan. Next, we have the rise of Nazism and fascism. Invasion of Czechoslovakia and Austria. Number 5, the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, which was a pact between Russia and Germany. Next, we have the Treaty of Versailles, which was a treaty between the Englishmen and the French. And lastly, we have the Anglo-Polish Treaty, which was a treaty between Great Britain and Poland. The immediate causes of World War II were Germany, under the leadership of Adolf Hitler, invades Poland. This marks the starting of World War II. Two distinct groups are created in this war, that is, the Allied powers, which are Great Britain, Poland, USA, and France, and the Axis powers, Germany, Italy, USSR, which later switched to the Allies powered, and also Japan. So some important figures in this World War were, number 1, Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler was the Chancellor of Germany during World War II, and his power was from 1933 to 1945. Next, we have Joseph Stalin. Joseph Stalin was the premier of USSR, or the Soviet Union, during World War II, and his reign was from 1922 to 1953. Next, we have the Winston Churchill, who was the Prime Minister of UK during World War II, and he came to power 2 times, that is 1940 to 1945 and 1951 to 1955. Next, we have Franklin D. Roosevelt. Roosevelt was the President of USA during World War II, and his power was from 1933 to 1945. Next, we have Benito Mussolini, who was the Prime Minister and the absolute dictator of Italy during World War II, and his power was from 1922 to 1943. Lastly, we have Emperor Hirohito, who was the Emperor of Japan during World War II, and he ruled for quite a long time, that is 1926 to 1989, which sums up to 63 years. So now we're going to study the events of World War II. First, 1939, we all know Germany attacks Poland, and after that invasion, Britain and France declare war on Germany. And as part of the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, Russia also thinks that let me also conquer some of Poland, and so Germany takes western Poland and Russia takes eastern Poland. 1940, Germany also invades Netherlands, Belgium, Denmark, and Norway, which are some of the Scandinavian countries and also the Low Countries. Next, we have in June, Benito Mussolini joins the Axis by signing the Tripartite Pact. Then, France falls to Germany as their capital, that is Vichy, is conquered. Next, Germany bombs Britain continuously, which causes pressure on Britain. Next, Japan joins the Axis powers by also signing the Tripartite Pact, and Hungary and Romania are pressured to join the Axis powers. And we can see the tide is really in the Axis power. So in 1941, the momentum is continued for the Axis powers, and Bulgaria joins the Axis powers. Just like Hungary and Romania, they were also pressured to join. Then Hitler invades West USSR, and it is one of the most important and influential moments of the World War II, as he denied and declined all the policies of the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, and thus he did not get the protection that he was getting from Russia till he did that moment. And then everything went wrong for the Axis powers. Next, we have Japan attacking Southeastern Asian countries like Indonesia, which was then called the Dutch East Indies, Malaysia, Philippines, the Papua New Guinea, and all these countries to flex its military muscles and also to increase its imperial power in the world. And then US enters the war. And one of the main events of this entering the war is that US's naval base, which is Pearl Harbor, which is quite close to the Hawaiian Islands, were bombed by the Japan Air Forces, and US was very infuriated by this. So we proceed to the next year, which is 1942, and the tides start turning for the Axis powers. In some battles with the US, a lot of resources were lost by Japan. And resources was the main thing that Japan wanted. And Japan wanted to also, one of the other reasons could be that Japan also wanted to conquer because they had a less oil. And oil is a very big necessity at that time. Next, Hitler continues to conquer much of Western Russia. And Joseph Stalin is not at all happy with Hitler. Next, Hitler is defeated in Stalingrad, which is present-day Volgograd, and it was a bloody battle, and it was very bad, and it killed millions and millions of people, and it was not at all very encouraging for the Axis powers. So next we proceed to the year 1943. 1943, it starts off well for the Allied powers, as Allied powers take over the southern part of Italian peninsula, and Mussolini is also deposed by the government of Italy. And after Mussolini, nobody wanted to fight with the Allies, so Italy surrenders to the Allied powers, and this was a major drawback for the Axis powers, and this was the starting of the Axis downfall. And this eventually led to their defeat in this war. We proceed to 1944, and this is one of the last years of the World War II. And Russia takes back land from Germany after entering the Allied power side. And US takes back control of Philippines, and Philippines was a colony of US for a long time, for about 300 years, till after the US's independence from Spain, and Japan had conquered the Philippines only for a few months, 8 to 9 months, and US has taken back the Philippines from the Japan in the Battle of Philippines. Then the liberation of many cities take place, and also concentration camps, because where genocides and mass killings had happened in Germany and Poland. Next we continue to 1945, which is the last year of World War II. First, one of the major events, Hitler's suicides to avoid execution, which was the fate of Benito Mussolini, one of his friends. And then things start to go really haywire. Complete victory in Europe for Allies, and this day was called the VE Day, or the Victory in Europe Day. Then we have the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombs are dropped, which were abbreviated as Little Boy and Fat Man. And this caused major destruction in Japan, and Japan declares. And this was the end of the World War, which has caused more than 1 million people to die. So here you can see a map of the Europe during World War II, and here is a map of the whole world during World War II. And we can see that much of the world is the Allied powers, because countries like Canada, Brazil, Australia are conquered by the British Empire. And to give a sense of how big the British Empire was, the British Empire was the biggest and largest empire in the world, even bigger than the Genghis Khan's empire. Genghis Khan's empire was the largest continuous empire in the world, but the British was the largest and the biggest. Thank you so much for watching this, and I hope you like it. Till we meet, bye!